Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a fantastic day or evening. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with her boss after he saw some crazy texts of what they did in his car. The OP is planning on getting revenge by exposing the affair to everyone. Now let's get into today's story to find out what happened. We were a couple of 4 years in our early 30s, living together with no children. There were some issues with sex and intimacy. I wanted her to go to therapy because she was struggling with her emotions and speaking about them, but she was too scared. The last time we kissed was in July and she just wasn't there. From that moment, her attitude changed. She became distant and impatient. 2 weeks later, we had a night out with friends after work and she brought her boss along. That was the first time I met the guy and he told me that I seemed friendly, but we were playing on 2 teams because he fancied my GF. When I spoke to my GF about it, she acted surprised and assured me nothing was going on. She became even more distant and hostile. I tried to get through to her, but she would get angry and gaslight me, claiming I was imagining things. I decided to make more effort and take her out more often, but her mind was always somewhere else. Then on our holiday trip, she told me that she didn't feel anything the last time we kissed and that there was no desire for me, but it didn't mean she wanted to break up. We decided to continue the conversation after the trip. When we got back, I noticed she became glued to her phone. She did more activities not involving me. I was still in denial. One Friday, she texted me that she was going for a beer with her boss. When confronted, she only said, "You want me to ask for permission?" It was just a beer. She broke up with me 2 days later. I said that I felt like we could work through our issues with couples therapy and if she went to therapy herself. She started having doubts about the breakup and said she would look for a therapist. When I asked if she met someone, she admitted to texting her boss a lot. He was hitting on her and it boosted her ego. He'd also invited her to join him on his holiday in Croatia in October. She wasn't planning to go. I was angry but believed her. When emotions settled the next day, I felt like that story just didn't add up. So I checked her messenger and it turned out to be a full-blown affair. She detailed everything to her 2 closest friends. It lasted a month. They kissed each other a few times and went on numerous dates. They agreed he would follow her lead and she would set the boundaries. She considered it might be just a temporary crush but wanted to see where it led. Dates and kisses were initiated by her. She said to her friends that it would be a shame if they didn't have sex. She was seriously considering going with him on that trip. They were making out in his car outside her flat and at work. She bragged to her friends that she finally got a romance at work type of story and how exciting it was. My view of her shattered. In the conversations, she acted like a teenager having the first crush in her life. They had a date planned on the day my aunt died and she complained to her friend she had to cancel because of that. I even helped her buy him a gift on our trip which was supposed to be for her friend. It hurt like hell. And man, her friends disgusted me. They cheered her on telling things like, "I envy you and the butterflies in your stomach. Take what you can from this and don't tell your boyfriend." One of them even offered to cover for her so she could go to Croatia with him. They never mentioned that it was wrong and she could lose her job. I also saw live how she wrote to her friends that the breakup with me was probably a big mistake and that we would most likely get together soon, but she needed therapy to figure things out. She also set up a meeting with her boss 4 days after our breakup. I was never cheated on and I thought that physical stuff would hurt the most, but wow, was I wrong. It was the lies and manipulations and how easy it was for her. The cruelty of stuff she did and said. I wanted to believe she was lost. The decision to go to therapy seemed genuine, but so much of the stuff I read seemed calculated. On the evening of D-Day she was in tears and asked if we could talk because she felt like the breakup was a huge mistake. I said we could talk in 2 days. I needed time to gather my thoughts and see my therapist first. I also wanted to get all things out of her apartment before that. Part of me still loved her and hoped she will want to change and fight for us, but deep down I knew there was no going back from some of this shit. It will stay in my head forever. I didn't think she was all evil, but now I discovered a part of her that was disgusting. I wanted to know why and I hoped that when the whole thing was uncovered she would offer me the truth since it would be most likely the last time we would ever speak. When we finally met, she said how she wasn't sure about her feelings and what she wanted. That she needed time to figure it out with the therapist. I straight up told her I read all her texts. I asked why she didn't tell me when I gave her so many chances, and she said, not to hurt you and because I was ashamed. It was a rationalization, of course, which made me angry. She was supposed to confess after we would get back together. I of course said it was bullshit because she knew I wouldn't want to fix stuff after that. Questions about details made her at times. She tried to lessen the whole thing. She explained that she felt wanted and finally something was happening, but it wasn't worth it in the end. She claimed she didn't really mean some of the stuff she wrote. She didn't want to have sex with him or go on that trip. She wasn't even sure if she liked him. I asked why would I believe her and not my eyes, and she said that she didn't know why she wrote that stuff and felt ashamed. She also said it was her biggest mistake in life and that she felt like trash for hurting me and regretted not going to therapy sooner and that I deserved someone better. I agreed. She apologized. I asked how she could be so dumb as to risk her job, and she said that it was not my problem anymore. She told me that she set up a meeting with him on Friday to ask him for a break to figure out what she wanted. I saw misery on her face. I said that I felt extremely disappointed and I didn't know who she was anymore. She replied that she didn't know either but was determined to find out during her therapy. When I asked about us, she said it was most likely unfixable. I finished by saying that I didn't know if I would ever forgive her and hope she found the answers that she sought during her therapy. Then I left. It was the hardest conversation in my life. In the end, I didn't receive the answers I wanted, and what I did receive was disappointing and insincere. It hurt me that she wasn't honest even when I confronted her. I'm angry at myself that I hope she would want to fix it, and I still catch myself having these thoughts even after a week. This is naive and I know that. I want to be loved by someone who hurt me so much it's so dumb. I hope these thoughts will go away sooner rather than later. I know I should focus on myself and improve my life, but it's so difficult to move on. I'm angry and jealous that the affair is most likely still going and she enjoys her time with someone else when the corpse of our relationship is still fresh and I'm suffering. Dealing with losing your home and your partner and the feeling of betrayal is overwhelming at times. A ton of you suggested I should report the affair to HR at her company and also blow it up to all her friends and family. I understand the reasoning and I've already spoken to my therapist about it. She told me that I should consider whether such an action would actually help me or just add to my misery. I've decided that I will do that because it will help me heal from what she's put me through. I want to heal and it's the best thing I can do at the moment. I feel better when I don't think about her. I plan on also telling her parents and close mutual friends so she doesn't try to spin the narrative on what happened. Hey OP, she is a product of the environment that she surrounds herself with. She chooses to be around shitty human beings, ergo she becomes a shitty human being. Therapy won't change her until she improves her environment. As long as she continues to surround herself with poor influences, the same things will happen. Her relationship with her boss won't last. He'll get what he wants from her and then move on to a fresh target. I just want to say that with time you will become a lot stronger because of this. You will know the signs early and you'll be far less likely to put up with it as long. Moreover, she's broken. What they say about affairs and it being on the person who had it is completely true. Whether it be a perceived flaw that you have or nothing at all, it doesn't change the fact that she went out and did what she did instead of communicating like an adult. That's on her. She's gonna have to forever live with the fact that she hurt somebody that cared about her, and not only are her reasonings shallow and materialistic, but both of them will be miserable before long. It's a relationship that's built like House of Cards. She will never be able to trust him because like who would date somebody that's already in a relationship knowingly, and he will never be able to trust her for precisely the same reason. I wish you the best of luck OP. Now let's get into today's second story. Guys and gals, I'm not doing so well. I'm going to try and keep things as brief as possible because I'm on my phone. I never thought I would ask this, but I need some support. Even if you all are just internet strangers, you are all that I have. Background. My wife, 27 female, and I, 25 male, have been married for over 5 years and have been together for more than 7. We have 2 beautiful little ones together. She is a full-time student. I work full-time. I make enough money for us to pay the bills and eat, but not much more. Our relationship has had its ups and downs. Some points were pretty rough. We separated twice, but we always worked it out and learned from our mistakes and grew together. Situation. My wife and went to town today to run errands. Was not fun. We brought the kids and it was just one thing after the other that kept starting fights for no reason. She started saying some pretty hurtful things, and granted, I'm sure what I was saying probably passed her off too, but I told her I was only trying to communicate about the issue so that we could just address it and be done with it, but she just kept telling me to be silent and not talk to her. When we got home it was around 9 p.m. We got the kids inside and she was in the bedroom getting dressed up. When I confronted her about why she was putting on heels and perfume, she said, I'm going to get dry shampoo. This was obviously a red flag and all, but I wanted to trust her, and she has done this before where she really does go get what she needs and then comes back. As she was leaving I was still just like, let me come with you, your sister can watch the kids for us. She's living with us temporarily. She refused and then drove off. So I do what any doting dad does and I got the kids to sleep. Well, I was also watching the bank account to see if she was being truthful with me. 30 minutes later I saw a charge at the place she was going and I was thinking, okay, everything's good, right? I was just overthinking things. She loves me, right? Yeah, well, several hours passed by and I hadn't so much as heard from her. I was starting to worry, so I texted and called, but I got a notification that I'd been blocked by her. I owned the phones. I was thinking, wait, what happened? Was she okay? Well, as time passed and passed, I was staying awake thinking in my head about every single thing that could be happening while I awaited her coming home. The thought crossed my mind that maybe she could be cheating on me, but I refused to believe that and continued to give the benefit of the doubt. Here's where it got real. Around 5 a.m. she came into the house trying to be quiet and putting some groceries away. She thought I was asleep. She put her phone on the counter and I grabbed it and snuck into the bedroom while she was distracted, and on her Snapchat I found a message she had sent to some guy thanking him for a wonderful night. As she came into the bedroom I confronted her with an emotional tone of, I was worried about you and God, so help me, you better start explaining. Well, when she looked up at me I saw her lipstick smeared all over her face. Her eyeshadow was smeared and her makeup in general just looks disheveled. Her hair was frizzy, almost like she ran home or something, and her breath from 4 feet away reeked of alcohol. I was destroyed. 7 years of time, energy, money, and love just washed down the drain as my heart fell to my feet. Thoughts of the other guy and what happened ran through my mind. I got pissed and broke her phone right in front of her as I called her out on the bullshit, and you know what she had to say about it? That I was delusional and needed help. That she didn't cheat on me. I continued to go off on her, hoping to get some kind of emotional response from her that would indicate remorse, but none was shown. I'm at a loss. I can't understand this. Am I being delusional here? Is she right about me? Can all of that stuff be explained rationally? Even if it can, I don't know how to move forward because I can't afford a divorce. I married this woman because I thought she and I were going to build a life together for us and our family. Chase our dreams and all that shit. Who does this to someone? Like, really, no matter how much you fight or argue or things go stale. How do you just throw everything away for one night? How is that worth it? I just need support, guys. Advice is appreciated too. Obviously, if she really did cheat on me, I'm going to have to get divorced. I can put up with a lot of shit, but I can't deal with betrayal. I really don't even believe in divorce because of my religious beliefs, but like I said, betrayal is something I can't do. Are there any Christians in here who are also willing to advise? All support is welcomed. Thank you. Hey OP, I do not understand why religious people state their religion for staying with a cheater. She is gaslighting you. You don't come home at 5 a.m. all disheveled with a thank you for the great evening if nothing happened. This guy is probably a coworker. My heart goes out to you. There is a lot of pain coming your way, whatever you chose to do. See a lawyer as soon as possible to see where you stand and take his advice. Search for and read up on the 180 and Grey Rock methods. Implement them immediately. Act as indifferent towards your wife as you can. She will notice. You will notice that she starts acting more attentive. She starts seeming bothered by your lack of attention. By your lack of doing things for her around the house. This will further confirm to you that she is likely cheating. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Don't let her have that. Good luck, OP. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed the stories, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on today's stories. Take care. I am 34 and my ex-wife was 30 at the time I wrote this story. Miriam and I had been married for 6 years and we had a beautiful daughter together. We were a happy family and I couldn't believe that Miriam would decide to throw away everything we shared as a family. We were always there for each other and supported each other's dreams. If she said she wanted to try something out, I would give her my full support and the same applied to me. Everything began to fall apart when Miriam got the role of an intern at her dream organization, and after she completed the internship, she was lucky to be fully retained. The truth is, none of us saw that coming, but I was so happy for her when it did. During my ex-wife's internship, there was this particular coworker of hers she used to talk about all the time. His name was John. She would return for the day and talk about how John was so intelligent, how he helped her out, and so on. I didn't really think there was a problem with that because John was married and he was not helping her alone, he was helping other interns too. Also, being that we were couples who communicated a lot, I literally knew everyone at her place of work even without meeting them face to face, because talking about everything was just our way of bonding and filling each other in about our days. After my wife got retained by her organization, she began to change. If she left for work early in the morning, she would return around 7 p.m. leaving just me to care for and look after our daughter. This continued for a while, and any time I tried to talk about this new behavior of hers, she would flare up and say I was being jealous because she earned more than me and her job was better than mine. Yes, it was true that my wife earned more than me, but that was not what this was about, and I hated that she had to rub that in my face each time we disagreed on something or had a fight. Miriam did not just suddenly begin to return home late, but she also became colder towards me. Before all of this happened, our weekend used to be something we all looked forward to because we would cook together, try our baking disasters, clean together, watch movies together, bath together, and even do karaoke with our daughter together, but all of that stopped after she got the job. It got so bad that even if she was at home, it was almost like she wasn't there. If she wasn't on her laptop, she'd be on her phone, and she didn't have an issue with consistently neglecting us to focus on whatever she was doing, no matter how much I complained. It was very painful to watch this because I loved Miriam so much, and whatever was going on was not the plan I had for the both of us or for our family either. When I had enough, I confronted her one day and asked her to pick between our marriage and her new job, since it was turning her into the person she wasn't, and ultimately she picked her job. She said she'd pick her job over and over, and she did not give a damn about our marriage. This was a very painful thing to hear, and she was not kidding either. At that time, I was so busy trying to save our marriage that I didn't notice the changes in the way she dressed, her makeup, and even her choice of clothes. It was a clear sign that she was seeing someone else. It had to be the only reason she neglected me and our daughter, and I was right. One day, I had put our daughter to sleep early and I went to her to think things through, and Miriam was on her laptop in the living room when I left her, so since she didn't hear any movement she must have thought I was sleeping. She walked into the room and I think she came in to confirm if I was asleep because she didn't see me move. When she confirmed that, she continued to talk on the phone. It didn't take long for me to figure out that she was talking to her lover, whom she told she was pregnant, and at the end of the conversation, she called his name. It was the same John, her coworker. I felt my throat go dry and I could not believe it. Miriam cheated on me with John, and not just that, she got pregnant by him despite everything we had been through together. I was really broken, but since we were already distant with each other, I didn't need to pretend that everything was okay. While she continued with her ways, I planned my revenge. I really wanted to confront her, but if I did, maybe things would not have turned out the way they did. I got one of those apps that allows you to track people's phones, and I tracked hers. I did this because I needed evidence, and without evidence, my revenge would be incomplete. I got their chats and text messages of them talking about the pregnancy and how she would try to pin it on me. The funny thing is, since Miriam had started seeing John, we stopped getting intimate because she was always tired whenever I tried to touch her. After that call, she tried to make us get intimate, but I didn't let that happen. Gathering the evidence took a while, and after I got enough, I printed them and put them in a big envelope, then I took it to her workplace myself. When she saw me that day, she pretended like we were cool at home and asked what I was doing there. LOL, I played along and told her I had come to deliver something very important to her boss, so she gave me a cold kiss and returned to whatever she was doing. If only she knew what was going to happen next, maybe she would not have kissed me. I think she was still a month pregnant because her baby bump was not obvious yet. That evening, she returned home in tears, but her bags were already packed by the door. I knew she had been fired because her company did not support coworkers dating each other, and to make matters worse, she was pregnant. When she realized it was me and I had known all this while, she fell on the floor and began to cry and beg me, but it was too late. I told her she'd be getting the divorce papers soon and kicked her out. John's wife eventually heard of the news and she divorced John too. John and Miriam did not end up together because he said Miriam ruined his life and all his years of hard work, and he wasn't going to take responsibility for the pregnancy because she was married to me, but we all knew the baby wasn't mine either. We eventually divorced, and with the help of my lawyer, I took custody of our daughter. I was not going to let her suffer for the sins of her mother. Miriam gave birth to a boy, and believe me, she has suffered a lot with the baby. Up to date, every time she comes to pick up our daughter, she cries, begs and admits that she made a terrible mistake. I keep telling her that it would be my own terrible mistake to take her back. OP, I'm sorry Miriam broke your trust and you had to go through all of this. I'll agree with you that you'd be making a terrible mistake if you took Miriam back. It was inhumane of her to abandon her family and cheat on you with a coworker. It's a good thing that she has gotten what she deserved and John played a fast one on her. I believe you will be fine, and you will definitely find a woman who will value and protect what you both have. I'm glad you did a good thing by getting rid of her and exposing her secrets. You're an example of a strong man, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Now let's move on to our next story for today. My ex-girlfriend and I had been dating for 4 years, and I was getting ready to propose to her before I found out she was cheating on me. Anna and I loved each other a lot. We were not the perfect Hollywood couple, but we loved each other. While we were dating, I asked Anna to move in with me because I wanted her to be around me all the time. She moved in a year after we started dating, and she went to college from my place. Being that we had dated for a long time, both of our parents were aware of our relationship and they consented to Anna moving in with me since we were planning to settle down anyways. I was a remote worker who earned well, so money was not an issue for us. My clients paid well, and in turn I provided everything Anna wanted. If she wanted to shop every week, hang out with her friends, do her nails or even get new wigs, they were all provided for. I cared about Anna and I wanted her to be happy. I played my part in being loyal and faithful, and I refrained from doing anything that would cause me to cheat on her or talk to any woman longer than I should. Anna, on the other hand, was a social butterfly. If she met someone on the same day, it would not take long before they became patties. This was the only problem I had with her, and it was always the cause of our fights. In the process of being social with most men, they would cross their boundaries, and Anna did not seem to have a problem with it. If we talked about it, she would tell me, this is who I am and I am not going to change my personality because you are not comfortable with it, so I let it slide. When Anna finished college, she was not able to get a job immediately after, so in the process of staying at home with me, she added extra pounds, and this made her very uncomfortable. She had to change her wardrobe because her clothes no longer fit, being that she had expanded. I suggested that she try intermittent fasting, but when we weren't getting the results we wanted, I then suggested that she sign up for a gym, and she agreed. The first few weeks after Anna signed up at the gym, she wanted to stop going because of how much her body hurt. She would literally skip some days and I would persuade her to keep going. She loathed going to the gym and it was never something she looked forward to, but down the line, I noticed she began to change, and going to the gym was something she prepared for a day before. At first, I thought it was because she successfully passed that beginner stage where working out would not have to hurt anymore, but I was wrong. Ideally, she was supposed to go to the gym 3 times a week since she spent most of her time at home doing nothing, but she changed it to 5 times a week including weekends. This did not sit well with me, but I could not complain since it was my idea for her to sign up for the gym in the first place. Slowly, Anna began to stay longer than usual, and most times she would come home with so much excitement. As if that was not enough, Anna would pick fights over the smallest things. If I told her she looked better in a particular pair of pants, she'd get pissed. If I told her I didn't want a particular meal for breakfast, she'd make a big deal out of it. When I could not take it anymore, I told her parents about it, and when her parents called to talk to her, she got upset and left the house for about a week. At that point, I was so worried. We never had the kind of fight where she had to leave the house, and I didn't want her parents to know about it either. After repeatedly calling and begging her for the whole week, she returned, and that's when things got worse. I had to apologize for everything she did, even when it was clear that she was the one at fault. I did the cooking, laundry, and took care of the house. I did everything possible to make sure that we didn't fight again, even when she got on my nerves sometimes, because if I did, she would threaten to leave, and I didn't want that. Meanwhile, she did not miss any of her gym workout days, but our relationship was slowly falling apart. Before everything turned out the way it did, we used to get intimate at least 3 times a week, but after she changed, we could go 2 weeks before she let me touch her. One day, she returned from the gym quite late as usual, but in high spirits, and that particular day, I was having a tough time working because my service provider was giving me issues. I asked to borrow her phone so I could use her hotspot, and she just unlocked it and handed it to me. Then she went to her room to shower and change. While I was with her phone, it didn't take long before a message from a certain Andrew popped up. It said, "I know I should not be texting you now, but I want you to know that you're the sweetest and sexiest girl I know, and I love how you drive me crazy. See you soon." Then he added those heart-shaped emojis. It took me a while to wrap my head around what was going on, and when I did, without wasting time, I took screenshots of the texts and forwarded them straight to her family WhatsApp group, and then I called her mother immediately. When this happened, Anna kept trying to talk to me from the bedroom, but when I wasn't responding, she came out to meet my eyes filled with tears. I asked her if she was seeing someone else, and she flared up and threatened to leave as usual, but this time, I helped her in packing her bags. When she realized she had been busted, she begged and begged, but I still kicked her out. Her parents called her and yelled at her to the extent she could not control her tears. She knew she had disappointed them, and she had to live with that. I could not believe I allowed her to emotionally manipulate me while she was screwing another guy from the gym behind my back. She tried to come back to me several times, but I warned her to never come close to me or my apartment. As manipulative as she was, she even tried to remind me of everything we shared and told me to not let one mistake ruin everything. I had enough, and I got her a restraining order. Later on, I found out that the time she left the house for a week, it was Andrew's house she stayed at and not one of her friends as she claimed. Funny thing is, she did not even know Andrew was married, and his wife and son had traveled for that period. After about 3 months, she started calling my number again with a different number, begging me to take her back. She was sorry, but I blocked her again. Though it was not easy, I'm happy I got rid of that manipulative woman. OP, it's never easy, but I'm happy you did the right thing. Anna did not deserve a second chance, not after cheating on you and taking your love for granted. You wanted what was best for her, but she turned around to pay you back in the worst possible way. No one should be with a cheating and manipulative partner. She was manipulative and she did not deserve you. It's sad you had to experience all of that, especially after you repeatedly showed her nothing but love. Sorry things had to turn out this way for you, but it's a sign that someone better is coming your way and you're going to get the love you deserve. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I wish you all the best going forward. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care and thanks. I, 36 male, was working every day as a dentist. I was the father of 2 young children and I trusted their mother, 30 female, more than anyone. She was supposed to be my rock, my life partner. Her dream was to travel around the world. She was very smart and acted for years like a respectable woman, so I wanted to make her dream come true. Even before our wedding day, it became impossible for me to picture living my life without her. We were married for 6 years before we had our first child. 4 years later, we had our second. Shortly after our second-born's 5th birthday, my wife celebrated 10 years of employment with her company. Our life was better than I ever could have asked for. We celebrated by hosting a party in our home. Several of her colleagues came over, and it was only the second time I got to meet them in all those years. Everyone seemed really nice. Several people complimented me and my wife. All of them got to see or meet our kids, who got out of bed to investigate mom and dad's friends. I didn't notice anything weird about the party or the people there. My wife was a little excited and jittery, but that was how she usually got whenever she was at a social gathering. She didn't know it, but I was saving up money as fast as I could for a trip to Australia to celebrate our upcoming 20th wedding anniversary. I worked 6 days a week, so I was looking forward to this more than any old Sunday. I had the thought at least once a week that our area needed more dentists. Literally just days after the party we hosted, and days before I planned telling my wife and kids about the trip I had planned, my MIL texted me. All she said was, "She's cheating on you." I replied with lots of question marks, and when she didn't reply back, I called her. She sighed before admitting that there were lots of people who knew my wife was cheating on me. She started an affair about 2 years prior with one of her colleagues. Completely taken aback, I asked why she, nor anyone else ever told me about it. She said she didn't tell me about it because it was her daughter, and she didn't want to be the one to tell her secret. But after so long of an affair, she couldn't take it anymore, and reasoned that I deserved to know so either of us had a chance at getting married again. I couldn't believe my wife was shamelessly seeing another man, and none of her coworkers felt like telling me. Then she added that my wife was looking forward to this upcoming business trip. My wife told her that work trips were the only time she could feel guilt-free with AP. Then she admitted to her mother that she might be enjoying her affair more than her marriage. I asked my MIL what I was supposed to do about custody of the children, which I immediately regretted because she started saying that my wife was still an excellent mother, so I could let her have, and that's when I hung up. Now that I knew the truth, I was going to start taking my life back. I felt like a moron as I explained the situation to my lawyer. How had I not seen any signs? My lawyer suggested I obtain evidence of some kind before confronting her about it, so before she left me with the kids to go on the business trip she was so looking forward to, I asked her where it would be held and wrote down the address. She probably assumed I just asked for safety reasons. She kissed the kids goodbye and then tried to kiss me. I pulled away, but she didn't ask me why. She just looked at me a moment before she shrugged and left. That's how I knew she didn't care about me anymore. I planned to surprise her at the address she gave me. I left her kids with my mom, who was very eager to see them. She lived independently, 45 minutes away from us, far enough that she wasn't comfortable driving, so having the kids at her house didn't happen very often. I needed her more than ever at this point. I arrived at the address of a fancy hotel. There were several luxurious rooms for social gatherings. I found the one for my wife's and started recognizing people as I walked around. I held my phone, recording as I searched for her. If she so shamelessly spent time with this man around her coworkers, I could think of no better way to get proof and confront her. People I met before stared at me, probably wondering where they knew me from. One woman gasped and didn't take her eyes off me. She knew this was it. My wife was busted. Several other people noticed me looking around and remembered who I was. By the time I made eye contact with my wife, we had an audience of about 80 people. She had another man's arm around her waist. I could tell that just a moment before she saw me, she was extremely comfortable having a marvelous time. I was shell-shocked. My wife dropped her wine glass as I felt my anger reach a point I never felt before in my life. All the years I spent with her and our children's faces flashed in my head. I thought about flipping over a table full of food, but I was recording her and AP at this moment. I was trembling as I rhetorically asked if anyone cared to tell me the truth about my wife. No one said a word. No one moved. I asked her directly why she cheated on me. Even though on the grand scale of things, it didn't matter why my wife cheated on me. I felt like I needed to know. I wanted her to explain on camera why I wasn't good enough for her in front of all the people she worked with. She looked extremely stupid when she just stammered that she didn't know why. I scoffed loudly and yelled that our kids deserved a better mother. Then I walked out. Later that night, after I was back at home with our kids, my MIL called, begging me to give my wife another chance. She said it wasn't her place to tell me what my wife was doing. I thanked her for telling me the truth because anyone deserves to know when they're being cheated on. She paused before asking me again to forgive my wife so she could come back home. She went on to explain that she didn't have room for her to move in and just flat out didn't want her to live with her. I laughed a hearty laugh and hung up. Neither her or her daughter cared about me. They were only thinking of themselves. For some reason, my MIL became annoyed by the fact that everyone knew about my wife's affair except for me, so she told me the truth because it was what she wanted to do. Now that it inconvenienced her, she wanted me to forgive her daughter. She didn't even say it was for her daughter's sake. She just wanted her house back. Wouldn't you believe that my wife called me just 2 days later asking me to forgive her because she didn't want to live with her mom? She said she was sorry, but I knew her tears were because she hated the consequences of cheating on me, not because she felt remorse for breaking apart our family. I had already uploaded the video online and attached it to an email to her company. She and AP lost their jobs already. I took this time to tell her that I saved up money for a trip to Australia, intending to celebrate our 20th anniversary, but now it was going to be a trip for me to celebrate being a father to 2 amazing kids. My mom would be taking her ticket. She didn't believe me at first, but then she started throwing a tantrum. This was the best and worst karma for her to experience. She was missing out on her lifelong dream that I made possible, all because she started a shameless 2-year-long affair with a colleague. I'm happy to say that the trip to Australia was absolutely incredible and it really helped me to grow as a father and heal as a man. OP, I am so sorry your wife did this to you. You and the kids certainly deserved better than this from her and you wanted better for her too. It's devastating that she did this to you without any concern for the family and life you had together. She behaved as though she could get away with it for as long as she wanted and she really didn't expect anyone to rat her out. I guess it was the fine work of karma that got into your MIL's head and convinced her to rat out her own daughter. She basically said it was because she was tired of her getting away with it. There you have it. The betraying daughter is betrayed by her betraying mother. The circle continues. You did the right thing by confronting her, recording, and refusing to forgive her for this. I feel like a lot of people use the word forgive to pressure victims into being pushovers and allowing the person that hurt them to keep getting everything they want in life without any repercussions. Thank you for providing us an example of what a betrayed spouse should do. Never accept anything less than the vows your spouse made to you, and never give your spouse anything less than those vows. Whenever there's any kind of issue that puts a wedge between you and your significant other, an honest talk is the only way to try resolving the issue properly. In many cases, there isn't a specific problem with the relationship when one spouse starts a comparison game or gets a thought that festers into reasoning for them to cheat. Shut down that temptation as soon as it arises by talking to your partner honestly every day. Appreciate everything your spouse wants to share with you and work together to decide what needs to happen next. I wish you all the best. Now let's get into our second story for today. My wife, 27 female, and I, 28 male, got married young when we were 20 and 21. I met her through friends while I was attending college and I fell in love. Before I met her, I never thought I'd let my guard down for a woman so quickly, but I believe we were meant to become a pair. I obtained my degree the same year my wife became pregnant. Life was moving fast for us, but I never felt worried or scared. My parents were a little. Her parents were thrilled she was settling down and staying out of trouble. She never told me much about her past, but she had a lot of friends. It seemed that for much of our relationship, if not all of it, I was sharing her with her friends. After she had our son, she went back to socializing and insisted I stay home to watch him while she went out at least once a week. I easily agreed to this. I felt like we were living the perfect dream. After a while, I wanted us to go out together, but my wife didn't trust either of our parents to watch our son. I thought that was pretty frustrating because they were supposed to help us and smother their grandson with love. So things stayed the same. She went out with her friends, then sometimes she watched the baby while I went out. I didn't like this separation. Before I got to talk to her about it, she started acting weirder. Each night she went out, she'd tell me which friends she was going to meet. She started to get scrambled and forgot which names she told me the next day. I pointed out her inconsistencies and how she was always vague about what they did each night. She got nervous and said she had to lie to her mom about who she hung out with because her mom hated one of the girls she spent time with, so that's why she got confused and told me the wrong story. I did not believe this at all. It was just alarming. How could she forget which truth to tell me? If her mom didn't like one of her friends, that isn't a very complex lie to keep straight, and it wouldn't mean she have to lie to me at all. I didn't want to cause an argument because I could tell my wife was in defense mode. while she was out another night, I called my MIL. I asked her who my wife said she went out with the night before. She was audibly uncomfortable and put on the spot. She cursed a little and sighed heavily. She assumed the jig was up and admitted my wife was seeing someone else because she had some growing up to do. I was shocked and hurt. My MIL justified my wife's cheating ways, blamed it on her immaturity. She assured me that my wife would learn from this if I could let it go this time. I hung up on her. I looked at my son and I felt broken, like I would never be the same after this. When my wife returned, I told her I knew everything. She looked at our son and instantly broke down. She told me she needed me to forgive her. She said exactly what her mom said, that she was young and stupid and made a bad decision, but she didn't deserve to lose our family. It was honestly really annoying to hear her talk about what she didn't deserve. She didn't deserve me, my trust, or the nice home we had as a family. I dedicated myself to her, even though I was just a year older than her. Why should I accept this when it's the one thing I never expected her to do? It's the one thing I decided I wouldn't tolerate in my marriage. With these thoughts fueling me, I told her to go stay with her mom. She took our son with her to her mom's. Anyway, it felt like she was trying to punish me for refusing to forgive her. During the divorce, I realized I needed to obtain solid evidence of my wife's affair. I knew I wouldn't be able to get anything from her or her mom directly, so I served subpoenas on my wife's cellular company. As soon as she heard about this, she in turn requested a protective order in an attempt to squash my efforts in proving her infidelity. Thankfully, the court saw what she was trying to do and sided with me. I had the right to engage in discovery which might lead to evidence of her adultery. To no one's surprise, blatant evidence of an affair was found. Images and texts sent between her and more than 5 other men. All the times she ever planned to go out with AP were there, along with the plans she made to hook up with 2 other men. I'm happy to say that I won primary custody and have since healed from this experience. I started dating a wonderful woman 1 year and 2 months ago today. She's a young widow with a young daughter. I can't explain it, but it feels like my story was already written. I know I was always meant to be with this woman, as much as I am meant to be a respectable father figure to her children. I feel like I've grown wiser and saw straight through my ex and her mother's manipulation tactics. OP, you are absolutely right. You saw straight through their word flattery. They tried to make it seem like your wife's completely unacceptable betrayal was just a simple mistake because she had some growing up to do. That is no excuse, and it's no reason for you to stay with a cheater. She proved that she wasn't ready for marriage and that she didn't respect or love you. To stay with her just because she was young or immature would have been a grave mistake. She just opened the door to infidelity, comparisons, and wondering who else she could spread her legs for. You operated as an example for men put into a similar situation. Separate from the cheater, seek support and evidence, and do not accept anything less. At least you've done yourself a great favor by refusing to stay with her. I'm proud of you for how far you've come and I wish you the best of luck in life. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. My now ex-wife, 38, and I, 38 male, were together for 20 years. The 2 of us got together in our first year of college and were inseparable since the moment we started dating. High school and college sweethearts don't always end up in a long-term relationship, but I was confident that if anyone could make it work it would be the 2 of us. After our college graduation, I popped the question and we got married soon after. Fast forward 16 years and 3 children later, our life was something that I would say was crafted out of a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect, but no relationship was perfect. It was a little while after our 20th anniversary when I started to notice odd things happening with my then wife. She was acting as you typically expect cheaters to act. Sneaky, touchy, mean, and just uninterested in our marriage and family. We had been married for a long time, so slumps could happen. I tried to brush it off and just give it time. One time I went so far as to suggest counseling, but this was shut down as soon as I suggested it. She claimed we didn't need therapy because everything was fine. So I went online and started searching for reasons she might be like this. A lot of what I found suggested that she might be cheating. I didn't want to believe it, but it would explain all of the strange behavior. One night after we went to bed, I grabbed her phone from her nightstand and broke into it. My wife was a heavy sleeper, so she didn't even twitch. I figured out her password on the second try before heading straight to the text messages. There were numerous text messages with this guy I knew as her longtime coworker. However, as far as I knew, they had never been close. They would have no reason to have so much contact with each other. This was suspicious, so I checked out the text messages between them. It was that night I discovered the affair between my wife and her older coworker. I never thought I'd have to worry about someone nearly 2 decades older than me who was not in shape and had a receding hairline, yet here I was. I could not fathom what my wife saw in him, but there was no denying something had to be pulling her to him. Cheating was one of those deal breakers for me. As far as I was concerned, the marriage was over. That night I slept on the couch. When my wife confronted me the next morning for sleeping downstairs, I turned around and confronted her about the affair. She turned as white as a sheet. At first, she tried denying it until I showed her the phone I had broken into. The woman had the actual audacity to be angry about me invading her privacy. I told her it was worth invading her privacy for a little peace of mind. At first, my wife did seem to want to repair the relationship, but after it became clear I was going to go forward with a divorce, she decided it wasn't worth it. About a month after I filed for divorce, she moved out and started seeing the AP she was cheating on me with. The divorce wasn't a particularly nasty one. We were able to agree on custody, who would get what, etc. I think both of us just wanted it to be over with. The reason I wanted it over is because I wanted to be free and no longer tied down to her. While my now ex wanted it done so she could ride off into the sunset with her corp-returned AP, I kept myself on a need-to-know basis with my ex after that. The only time we communicated was about the divorce or our children. There were parenting apps you could use to communicate with the other parent, which kept things simple. Luckily, she didn't protest with us using that as our primary method of communicating. Our kids had a hard time with it, as any child would. I could only tell them so much about why the marriage ended and tried very much to keep it not only age-appropriate but also kid-friendly. As much as I disliked my ex, she was a good mother to our 3 children. This was probably one of her only redeeming qualities. Soon a year passed and our divorce was official. I focused on everything else in my life, my kids, job, friends, family, hobbies, etc. It did a good job of keeping me busy and not thinking about why my wife decided to blow up our marriage the way she did. The only logical explanation was that she was always a terrible person but didn't show it until then. I was honestly okay with that. My wife remained with the affair partner. It seemed to be working out until it wasn't, and when it blew up in her face, she came to me with tears in her eyes. The night it happened, she called me asking if I could have the kids again overnight even though it was her turn. I didn't mind because I love spending time with my kids and didn't have any plans either. So I said yes, but asked what was going on because I could hear that she had been crying. She told me that karma was a pain and had finally come for her. Her affair partner had cheated on her with someone who was a decade younger than my ex. This was discovered after she went through his phone while he was in the shower. I have no idea why she told me this. Maybe she thought I would feel some pity for her or in some bizarre world try to rekindle things with her again. The joke was on my ex because I had already been seeing someone for the past few months and I was crazy about them. She ended up asking for forgiveness again at the end of the conversation. I told her no, she hadn't earned that forgiveness even if she was feeling exactly what I felt when I discovered that she was cheating on me. Cue the wailing. I cut the call short, agreeing to take the kids for the weekend so she could gather herself and figure out what she wanted to do about this guy. It would be better for my kids not to be there for all that drama anyway. The most important thing was keeping them away from all of that crap to the best of my ability. It would be a lie if I didn't admit that hearing him go on and do the same thing to her only with a younger woman did make me feel a little better. I was always frustrated because my ex never seemed to understand why I was so hurt. Now she knew why, and when the shoe was on the other foot, it wasn't a very fun place to be. From what I know, the 2 of them are still together, but the trust is just gone. Honestly, that's the most hilarious thing I have ever heard, because how could you have trust in a relationship that started as an affair? My ex got what was coming to her. I don't wish her any physical harm, of course, as she is the of my children, but some karmic retribution. I wish her all of that and more. If she ends up trying to complain to me again, I'm just going to cut her off before she has a chance to tell me anything. I don't want to know and don't care to know. The sooner my ex gets that through her head, the better off all of us will be. OPA, as they say, what comes around goes around, and your ex-wife has certainly seen this come to fruition. Like some people say, she played around and found out. If she was so disillusioned in your relationship, then there were so many things she could have done. First, she could have tried to work it out, but if that wasn't possible, then ask for a divorce. I promise you, had you not decided to go through her phone that night, you wouldn't have found out about the affair either at all or for months, possibly years. She had her cake and wanted to eat it too. This is clear by how easily she gave up when you refused to budge from getting a divorce. There is no better gift for your ex than karma coming for her. It bulldozed its way into her life and kept tearing things apart until there was nothing left. Now let's get into our second story for today. I met my wife while I was working a job in my chosen field, but it was lower paying than I would have wanted. It wasn't too shocking because I was a dejected millennial who had grown up in this economy, so I was just happy to find something that could pay me. When I was getting coffee, I bumped into her and we got to talking. I know it sounds a little corny, but the two of us did hit it off right away. After talking in line for a bit, we exchanged numbers and then went out on a date. It was one of those whirlwind romances where everything happened all at once. I think maybe the fact that it happened so fast blinded me to any red flags there could have been in the beginning. After about a year, we were getting married. I proposed out of the blue. I don't know why I rushed it. Maybe it was the honeymoon phase, but we married in a small ceremony and she moved from her apartment to my modest one-room apartment. Now I never had a lot of money. My family was lower middle class and so was my ex-wife's family, so it wasn't like the two of us didn't come from a similar environment. We did want to build a secure life, but if it didn't happen right away, that was fine. Things like this did take time after all. Get-rich-quick schemes were exactly that. They were schemes and didn't work. For the first year or two, things seemed good and it was like we were on the same page. Then my wife started to appear as if she were disillusioned with the life we were building. Suddenly, the apartment wasn't good enough. Nothing I did seemed to be good enough. I wasn't making the right amount of money. We couldn't do anything romantic because of the lack of income and just anything that cost money. Her biggest gripe was that I didn't earn enough money. Not her, me. She worked full-time as well, but since I was the husband, I should be the one who was providing more of the money to the relationship. It's a shame that I tried, but I was still deeply in love with this woman. I worked longer hours and put away as much money as I could. When this was happening, I was exhausted all the time. My wife would start complaining about how I never had any time with her, even though I was working overtime for her. The longer it went on, the less I wanted to do it anymore, so I realized something was going to have to change. I planned to talk with my wife and see if we could try to work things out. If I spoke with her, then certainly she would be able to see my point of view right. At least I thought this would be the case. So I decided to come home early one day to speak with her. However, when I got home and looked for my wife, I found her in our bed with some other guy. She screamed and I just turned and went into the kitchen. I heard movement from our bedroom followed by the slamming of the front door. My wife came in asking what I was doing here. My response was to ask her what she was doing with some other guy in our bed. She claimed it didn't mean anything, so I asked how long it had been going on. My wife admitted it was going on for the past 6 months, so for half a year she had been lying to me. I asked how they met and she said they met on a social media site. Honestly, I didn't care about anything else she had to say after that. Once I knew she was cheating on me, it was like the wool had been pulled from over my eyes. I was able to see all the red flags I initially missed and knew there was only one step ahead of us we could take. It had to be a divorce. There was no other way. She changed her tune right away when it became clear I wouldn't change my mind and take her back. So once I said it was over, she packed her things and left. From there we went forward with the divorce. My wife wanted to make it official so she could go be with her AP. Over time I came to find out that the AP was quite rich, and once I found that out, the pieces started to fit into place. My wife, or now ex-wife, had always wanted to live a far better life than what I was able to provide right now. It was like she wanted to get one of those get-rich-quick schemes, and if you know anything about them you will know that they do not work no matter how much you want them to. By getting involved with a rich guy she did accomplish her goal, so I guess there was that, but it still didn't mean it would work out. Once the divorce was final, my ex moved in with the guy and started an official relationship with him. I tried my best to push her out of my mind and focus on rebuilding my life. The first step was to stop focusing on work so much. I could still work but also enjoy my life. By doing this I was able to spend more attention on my hobbies and just the little things that I used to enjoy in life. A few months after the divorce my ex-wife got into contact with me. She called me from one of her friend's phones since I blocked her main number. Once I answered, my ex started crying about how her new boyfriend had dumped her after 6 months. There went her backup plan, much to my amusement. My ex had always wanted something more in life, but she had never been willing to work hard for it. This was reality slapping her in the face, and I'm not going to lie, I was loving every moment of it. I don't care if it had been petty of me, because I had worked myself like a dog to make my wife happy only to have it blow up in my face. It was clear my ex was contacting me to get some pity or something along those lines. At least it was the only thing I could think of. Whatever the reason, she was looking in the wrong place for it, and I told her as much. I do wonder if I reacted differently if she would have tried to ask if she could stay with me or give us another chance. Honestly, I had no idea, because as soon as I brushed her off she started shouting and then hung up on me. If hanging up on me was supposed to hurt, then this was one of the best punishments I had ever received, because I didn't want to talk to her anymore anyway. Through the grapevine, I heard that my ex-wife showed up at the guy's house and tried to get him to take her back. It nearly ended up with her getting arrested in the process. My ex clearly couldn't let go of this guy because he was her one chance at getting rich quickly. Hey, if she wanted to waste time going after him, then so be it. Since I kicked her out, she was no longer my problem. Let her be her AP's problem or whatever other guy she ends up stringing along. I've moved on in my life. The future may seem a little bit uncertain, but the one thing I am sure of is that my ex is not going to be a part of it under any circumstance. I have never seen a greater example of cruel irony than this situation right here. Your ex-wife wants that typical American dream without having to even work hard for it. This is truly lovable. Why she thought she would base her future on a man she had an affair with is beyond me. It is hilarious when you think about it. You handled it beautifully. From the moment you found out, you didn't let your emotions cloud your judgment and were quick to tell your wife it was over. This is commendable. Hopefully it will also give hope to people who find themselves in the same situation. Keep moving forward and don't ever look back. If you do look back at your relationship, just realize that you dodged the bullet when it came to your ex. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. I was married to my ex-wife for 3 years before she broke our marital vows and shattered whatever was left of my heart. My ex-wife and I met at a bar on a Friday night, and coincidentally we sat next to each other and ordered the same drink from the bartender. While I had gone to the bar to unwind from the day's stress, it seemed like my ex-wife was there to cry over her broken heart. She kept drinking and taking more shots until she threw up. As the good Samaritan I was, I helped her back to the more comfortable bar seats, stayed with her for a while, and that was how we became friends. I didn't think that helping her that night would be the beginning of our love story, and somehow her sweet personality caused me to open my once broken heart to love again. My ex-wife was a caregiver, and I worked with a tech company. On our free days, we would hang out together, either go to a restaurant or the bar we met or go for a walk in the park, and in less than 6 months of knowing her, I asked her out. It was almost like she charmed me with her personality, and I fell deeply in love, and because we were both young, financially stable, and in love, we married after a year of dating. We were so happy, and every day I thanked God for giving me a woman like her, mainly because I had lost hope in love and had already decided not to get married. I had experienced multiple heartbreaks with my exes in the past. With my ex-wife in my life, I was a changed person. I cut off friends because our goals did not align, especially the ones that insisted I cheat on my ex-wife because she would do it anyway. I also stopped staying out late because I wanted to spend more time with my ex-wife. I just wanted our marriage to be perfect, and because I had not been in a relationship that lasted that long, my ex-wife and I agreed that we would not have kids until we were ready. We got along well for the first 2 years of our marriage. If we had fights, I ensured we settled it before bed and didn't sweep anything under the carpet. I didn't want a situation where our arguments would lead her to find comfort in another man's arms, so I did what I had to do. In terms of provision, I provided for my ex-wife as a man should provide for his family. I got her whatever she wanted to make her happy and did my own share of chores at home. We visited our families whenever we were supposed to, and I always remembered our anniversaries. Around the 3rd year of our marriage, I noticed that my wife started acting differently. She wasn't cold toward me, but I could tell that something was off with her. Initially, I believed she acted that way because of stress from work. She recently told me about a new client she was assigned, and she was struggling with him. Since it was around the same time, I didn't pay much attention to the slight changes, and I encouraged her to rest more whenever she returned from work instead of watching reality shows the whole night. But when weeks passed and she didn't change, I became worried. I talked to her about taking a leave so she could rest properly, but she shook it off like it was nothing. Then she started acting weird and asking weird questions. She would ask questions about couples that opened their marriage and how they felt to be with someone else aside from their spouses, and if I answered the first question, she would jokingly ask me what I would do if I found out she was cheating on me. I blatantly told her I would leave and divorce her because I would not tolerate living with a cheater, and she would laugh it off and pretend she was asking a harmless question. She didn't ask this question once or twice. I lost count of the times she asked, and each time she asked, I wondered why she was asking the same question again, and she would tell me she wanted to be sure that I really loved and valued her. Initially, I believed her, but it became suspicious when she kept bugging me with the same question almost every 2 weeks, but after so much consideration, I let it slide. I didn't want to ruin my beautiful marriage and relationship with her based on my past experiences with my exes, so I convinced myself that she was only reviewing our marriage and doing her love affirmation thing. Around the same month her questions started, the organization she worked for hired another caregiver around the same age as my ex-wife, and they quickly became friends. This new friend was exactly her opposite. She loved to hang out on weekends and have fun, and in no time, my ex-wife joined her. They started hanging out together more often, and after a long week at work, they would pick a place they wanted to hang out at. I didn't have any problem with my ex-wife and her new friend. I was glad she put aside her introverted nature and opened up to someone else that wasn't me, and I knew how choking it could be for your spouse to be your only friend. As she started hanging out with her new friend more often, it also gave me the time to rekindle my friendship with some of my old friends and see them regularly. At the same time, nothing really changed in our marriage. We were still the same, and our love for each other remained the same. One weekend, I invited 2 friends to come over and watch football at my house since I knew my ex-wife would be out that evening with her new friend. She was always my football partner, and since her outing was important to her, I didn't want her to cancel, so I invited my friends over. Unfortunately, about 15 minutes before the game started, I noticed we were out of my favorite chips, and I went to my ex-wife's purse to steal some cash. I knew she always left cash in that particular purse in case we needed to buy something urgently, and it wasn't my first time taking money from there. Instead of getting the cash I wanted, I found a strange business card with a red lipstick stain on it, and I was sure the lipstick was hers because it had that vanilla fragrance on the card. Also, I had heard my ex-wife talk about the name on the card a couple of times on the phone with her friend. Seeing that card didn't sit well with me, so I told my friends about it, and they opted we go and check out the place. We drove to the address on the card, which turned out to be a nightclub. I was stunned because she never mentioned going to a nightclub to me. She talked about fancy restaurants, bars, and picnics, but never a nightclub. Outside the nightclub, I recognized her friend's car, and I knew they were in there together. To cut the story short, we went inside and saw her in the VIP section with a stranger. They were cuddling and laughing at the top of their voices. From the way she wrapped herself around him, anyone could tell they weren't strangers to each other. I was so shocked and heartbroken, and I couldn't even move from my position. Thankfully, one of my friends took out his phone, took photos, and recorded my ex-wife and her lover together. I couldn't go home that night because I was so angry, so I crashed at one of my friend's place. That same night, we did a quick research on the club, and we found out her lover was the owner of the nightclub. Not just that, he was also the son of the client she was always complaining about, and it made sense to me. As for her lover, I left his nightclub a 1-star review and posted the photos and video online. The following day, I went home to my wife, and she was acting all nice and innocent. I didn't want to beat around the bush, so I told her I knew she was cheating, and she immediately denied it. I watched her cry and call me names for accusing her, and when I was done with her drama, I showed her the photos and videos, and she couldn't say anything. Politely, I asked her to go in and pack her things, and she started begging and crying real tears. She blamed her new friend for misleading her and promised to be a better wife, but I was not having that. Her relationship with the club owner started when she asked those questions. I was so heartbroken and devastated, and I kicked her out when I couldn't listen to her pleas anymore. On the other hand, the photos and videos I posted went viral, and it ruined his club's reputation. It was such a big scandal, and even big vloggers in our city carried it. Unfortunately for him, his club began to run down. Eventually, my ex-wife and I divorced, and shortly after, she left town because the whole video thing did not die down, and people recognized her as the cheating wife from the photos and video. She was even used for memes, until now, I still stumble on her pictures used as memes. It's been years, and my heart has been locked for love. I am not ready to experience such heartbreak again, and I have focused more on doing the things that make me happy and add money to my account. OP, this must have been very heartbreaking. A lot of times, the kind of friends our spouses keep can destroy marriages. Saying that her friend misled her is a very weak reason to cheat on you. She would not be easily misled or influenced to do the wrong thing if she loved you like you loved her. She was only using you, and asking those questions was only her way of testing the waters. Keep focusing on the things that make you happy and richer. With time, all the hurt will go, and you will forget about her. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Now, let's move on to the next story of the day. Hello, everyone. For the sake of anonymity, I'll be using fake names. Laura and I met after I graduated from college. She was almost rounding up with college then, and though we didn't start dating immediately, we knew each other for at least 3 years before I asked her to be my girlfriend. Our relationship was beautiful, and we matched perfectly with each other. We dated for 3 years before we got married, and for the first 2 years of our marriage, Laura could not conceive. We tried everything possible, did all the tests, and the results showed we were both okay, but no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't make a baby. Not like I wasn't bothered about it. I was, but the person that was most affected was Laura. She loved children, and even while we were dating, she always talked about how we'd start making children once we got married. So it was heartbreaking for her to find out she could not conceive. To make things worse, we were lucky to get pregnant once, and in less than 2 months, she miscarried. This upset Laura and affected many things about her, including her enthusiasm toward life and the things she loved. It got so bad that she would start crying if she saw baby ads or pictures on Facebook. But luckily for us, towards the 3rd year of our marriage, Laura conceived again and gave birth to our beautiful daughter, Maya. Indeed, Maya was a bundle of joy. She changed so much in our lives, especially Laura's. Laura loved Maya more than life itself, and she did almost everything to make sure Maya was healthy and happy. We treated Maya with so much love, and as she grew up, Laura pampered her with whatever she wanted. She got her the best dresses, shoes, school bags, and everything a girl child should have. There was no asking why Laura loved our daughter so much. Maya's pregnancy came with many complications, and as soon as she was born, Laura and I agreed that 1 child was enough. That way, we could take good care of her, provide for her, and give her the best education. On the other hand, Maya grew to love us and spent more time with her mother. My work took at least 9 hours a day, and most times, I would work overtime to make more money. So except evenings, holidays, and weekends, I barely had time to spend time with Maya, and most evenings, she would already be in bed before I returned home. Honestly, I loved the mother-daughter bond Laura and Maya shared, and within me, I always wished I had the same relationship with my mom. Maya became our utmost priority. Her needs were first met before ours, education-wise. We sent her to an excellent private school. Before Laura and I married, I knew her to be a go-getter and someone who gave her 100% to whatever she was doing, and somehow, she passed the attribute to Maya. She always encouraged Maya to do well in school, make good friends, and be hardworking. She just wanted our daughter's life to be perfect, or so I believed. Initially, it started like motherly advice to her daughter, but as Maya grew older, it felt like she was imposing the whole good grades thing on her. She always wanted Maya to be on top of her class, read more, and play less, and I even remember telling her to allow Maya to be a child, especially since having the highest grades was not the most important thing at that stage of her life, but her social skills with her friends and so much more. She was being too hard on Maya, and although Maya did not see it as hard on her, I was an adult and saw it very clearly. As Maya continued to grow, she became less interested in reading all the time because it did not allow her to spend time with her friends and neighbors, and Laura took this very personally. It took me a lot of talking before Laura stopped being too serious with our daughter, and I was relieved she was finally allowing Maya to act her age. About a month after Maya's 5th birthday, I was home that weekend, and Laura asked me to help her clean her car. Initially, I was reluctant because I knew how untidy her car was every time I cleaned and how stressful it would be, but I did it anyway. I started by taking out the mats, cleaned the front, and as I was trying to clean the back, I found a pack of condoms in the driver's seat back pocket and 2 pieces were cut out. Immediately, I saw the condom. My heart skipped because we never did it in the car, and the condom wasn't my size. The fact that 2 pieces were missing indicated something was wrong, but I didn't want to confront her without being sure. Seeing the condom in her car definitely changed my attitude toward her for the rest of the weekend, but I lied to her and said I acted that way because of something at work. A couple of days after I found the condom, I secretly set up a dash cam in her car to see who she was having an affair with, if at all she was having an affair. Many thoughts and reasons the condom was in her car crossed my mind, and I thought about all the possible scenarios of someone leaving a condom, her car, but I didn't want to rule out the possibility of her cheating on me. Well, my worst nightmare happened. 2 days after I hid the dash cam in her car, I found out no one left or forgot the condom in her car. My ex-wife was actually sleeping with someone else, and to my greatest surprise, it was my daughter's class teacher. Not only did I get videos from the dashcam I hid in her car, but I also got audio, and what I heard made my heart bleed. I was not only heartbroken, I was very disappointed because my wife was sleeping with our daughter's teacher so he could give her the highest grades in her class. I could not believe she could go to that extreme with her highest grades obsession. Without thinking twice, I contacted the school board and reported everything to them with my evidence. I also confronted Laura that same day and kicked her out of the house in anger. In fact, most of her stuff was already waiting for her in the living room by the time she returned. When I told her I knew she was sleeping with Maya's teacher, she immediately went to her knees and started begging me. She said she did it for Maya and was trying to help her get the highest grades so it would help with her college applications and whatever. I was so angry and I kicked her out of the house. At first, she didn't want to leave because she believed she was doing our daughter a favor, but after I yelled at her and my eyes were popping out, she left in fear because she had never seen me so angry. That same week, the school fired my daughter's class teacher, and I contacted a lawyer to start processing our divorce papers. On the other hand, Maya found out that her mother and I were divorcing, and she was so upset. I knew it was hard for her, and she was already asking questions, so I told her the truth so she could stay with me. Don't judge me, what her mother did was terrible and I didn't try to sugarcoat it. Eventually, we divorced, and I won child custody for Maya. I didn't want her mother putting terrible ideas of desperation in her head, and I believed I did the right thing. I didn't know it would get her like that, but Maya was hurt and stopped talking to Laura. The only time she speaks to Laura is when she is either yelling or screaming at her, and this makes Laura cry all the time, mainly because she loved Maya and did what she did because of her. I still don't know if it's true. It's been almost a year, and I have reduced my working hours to spend time with Maya. Although it still hurts me that Laura betrayed my trust and broke my heart, I'm glad she is not in my life anymore. I may remarry when I feel ready again, but for now, I want to spend time with my daughter and be the best father in the world. OP, this is really sad to hear. Why on earth would a mother sleep with her daughter's teacher for grades? This wasn't a mother's love. It was an obsession. I can only imagine everything that would have gone wrong if your daughter's classmates heard about it. I'm glad you handled this well and won custody of your child. She would definitely be a bad influence on the poor kid. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.